I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Abigail Merrill. She's a three-time business owner, speaker, certified AI practitioner, and business strategist focused on helping organizations integrate AI strategically and responsibly. So today we're going to talk about AI, but not in the here's how to use it or your best content props type of way. We're going to go a little bit deeper with Abigail today. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to chat with you because I feel like AI is all of the rage right now. It has been for the last couple of years, and you are the expert in this space. So I want to start by asking you, you started in sales, ops, marketing. You have a very diverse background. So what personally made you feel the pull to get into AI early on?
Yeah. So I was working with revenue operations for large experiential marketing. And in 2019, after many stints, I decided to go out on my own and started having my own smaller agency, just me and a few other 1099s contractor work. And I was actually had the opportunity to work with a client that was pre ChatGPT and they were a competitor. So my first foray, I didn't even know what the word prompt was, but I put in the hardest question that I could possibly ask it. And it was actually for another client. It was actually about social engineering and cybersecurity. And it was a technical paper that I needed to write. And for their sales enablement team. And it was an eye opener. It immediately, of course, popped out, 500 word essay and really well done. And obviously it needed a lot of zhuzhing. We've come a long way. We couldn't, pull all the sources that you would think, but to me, it was an immediate eye opener. I could fast forward 10, 15 years in the future and knowing that not only that was going to be the game changer for how I could elevate and expand my business personally, but also for my clients and really the industry as a whole, marketing, sales, I could really see it as a transformative tool in the revenue engine.
Yeah, I applaud you for that because I feel like I often hear two different narratives with AI. You'll hear like, this is the best tool, it's the future, this is what we need, and we need to learn how to use it. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, you'll hear, this is going to take all of our jobs, this is ruining the world, this is just a phase. And in my business circle, I work a lot with women, and it seems that women in particular have a bit more fear around the topic. So from your perspective, do you see that AI does affect men and women differently? Do you see that maybe women might be unintentionally disadvantaged when it comes to AI? What are you seeing from your point of view?
Yes. So the data does show that women are adopting generative AI at a 22% lower rate than men when the technology and the access is equal. There's 32 recent studies that I can pull that show that not only are are women less likely to want to use it, but also the systems themselves have built-in biases within them. So the reason that I see women are not using it, let's take the LLM and the biases to the table on this side of the table for just a second. I see the fear around it and the resistance more as a cautious awareness. Okay. So I like to reframe it that women specifically are not going to be the first, usually, especially in a workplace environment, to go out on the limb and try a new tool and be the first to use it and be the loudest in the room about everything that they've been able to accomplish with it. We typically are more empathetic. So there is a lot of emotional distrust with these tools. We don't want to lose our voice. But women specifically in the workplace are penalized more for things not going right and taking a leap of faith. So there's also plenty of studies that show that when something like a project doesn't go right and something fails, if a man is the leader of that project, typically it's outside, it's external circumstances that made him fail. Oh, he didn't have enough resources. Oh, he didn't have enough time. It's not a personal reflection on him, where actually for women, if a woman fails in the workplace with a project, it is a direct reflection. And there's plenty of studies that show that the memory of that failure actually lasts longer within the team. So of course, women are hesitant to try new tools, and especially in a workplace environment, because we already have some built-in gender discrepancies in the workplace. And then to the other point about the LLMs themselves, they are built on. So just to give you some background, when we say AI and artificial intelligence has actually been around since the 1950s. And we have actually had it embedded within our tools that we use every single day, right? Our algorithms. If you get a fraud alert on your phone, that traffic camera that can recognize your face and accidentally give you, and you pass through a red light, that is all artificial intelligence. And that's been used and ingrained in our system since the 1970s, where it's becoming, as you said, it's everywhere right now. That actually has a lot to do with generative AI. It's underneath the AI umbrella. And that's the tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok. Those are the ones that actually take patterns and give us the best result based on those patterns. So they are not answer boxes. They don't recall facts. They're literally just pattern recognition, and they're trying to give you the best result possible. But they are generating new content from those patterns. So we can lose trust pretty quickly in these tools if we only think that they're encyclopedias, but they're not.
That makes a lot of sense. And as you were speaking, I was nodding my head because I am in the social media world. So all day, every day, I'm on social media and I'm seeing a lot of content around AI, and I never know what's true and what's not. I've seen that, ChatGPT will just regurgitate back to you what you've already said to it, whereas Claude can think on its own. So this is a little bit of a sidebar, but do you have a tool that you inherently trust a little bit more than the others when it comes to generative AI?
Yeah, so I think we have to remember how these tools came about. They are literally scraped the internet, the public internet, for its data. And then humans working at these companies create system prompts that are typically men from Silicon Valley. Only about 20% of these companies have women as the leaders and the engineers. And then we also are users ourselves. So we actually inform these and manipulate these systems the way that we give it thumbs up. We say, oh, we like that answer. We don't like this answer. Try again. I would say out of all of the systems, to be very specific, I highly caution people using Grok. It is one of the most unreliable when it comes to efficacy, safety, and responsible ethics that have gone into building it. But Anthropic by Claude by Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google Gemini, they're pretty much neck and neck. Now, Claude has recently come out, just over Christmas break, has come out as a leader in some of the benchmarks, but they're, especially in the coding world, which doesn't really kind of affect most of us as, general users. But what I recommend to women and anyone using these tools is to pick one, especially one that is maybe already within your tech stack. Like many women that work in enterprise companies have access to Microsoft Copilot. That is literally, Microsoft Copilot is just white labeled OpenAI ChatGPT. It's the same. It's a little watered down version, a lot more security and governance around it. But Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, go ahead back and forth and test them out. If you feel like you're not getting the result that you're looking for and the response that you're looking for, take that exact same question and put it in a Claude or a ChatGPT and compare the two and see which one feels right for you and also for that specific task. Because there isn't a set, dichotomy graph of always use ChatGPT if you're running a report or always use Claude if you're doing code. Like, yes, maybe, but it's also just your specific use cases and task, and you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I personally use ChatGPT very often. I'm not super advanced in it, but I have custom GTs. Is that what it's called? A custom GPT?
Custom GPTs, yes, exactly.
That I've built that I found really powerful. But I also use it for some personal things as well. So when you were talking about Silicon Valley, I just have to ask a clarifying question. Am I understanding correctly that there are men in the offices in Silicon Valley who are able to read what we are inputting into a chat GPT?
Yes and no. So it all depends on what your license level is. If you're in the free version, then yes, every conversation, every personal detail, every identifying fact about yourself, every medical question about, hey, is that normal that my kid is doing that? All of that is, yes, can be retrained on the model. It is in there. You cannot pull it back. If you are on a pro version or a Teams version of ChatGPT, then there are closed loops, and they say specifically that OpenAI will not take your data and use it for training purposes.
So we're paying for privacy.
You're paying for privacy. You're paying for closed loop information. Now, there's also these models can change, and lawsuits can change the way that they can use your data, hold on to your data. So I always recommend people looking within their settings of the tools that they're using and seeing if you can toggle on and off. Yes, can be used for training purposes. No, cannot be used for my training purposes. So look in if you like to use Claude, if you like to use Gemini, look in your settings, figure out where your data is actually going.
That's a really good call out. And I don't think any of us put anything, wild inside of these AI tools, I would hope. But I'm just like, dang, someone in California got a very good laugh at the emotional breakdown that Alyssa Olerud had a couple of weeks ago.
Hey, I actually love where we're taking these tools, and there's been a lot of research that says that we're actually using them in a therapeutic way, and they're filling some of the void of strategic coaches and one-on-one therapy sessions, or just bringing our anxiety down a little bit. I see the biggest advancement coming as people using these tools as their therapists. I can see more of that coming in the near future.
Interesting.
There was also a TikTok, the craziest thing that I had said to AI, to ChatGPT, that went viral not too long ago. And you should have seen like the funny things that people had put in there. So I'm sure lots of Silicon Valley people are reading this going, oh my God, these people are crazy.
Probably. It's okay. We all are.
Yeah.
But to circle back, I do want to give you the opportunity to answer the question I asked about biases, particularly in the tools themselves. We had spoken offline a little bit about how women can unintentionally be disadvantaged or misrepresented by these tools. So what does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, unfortunately. So as I said, these tools are built on public data on the internet. And as you know, the internet is filled with crap. That's the technical term. We cannot see and believe everything that we see. And so if all of the internet is being scraped to build these tools, to give these tools the training data it needs to learn how we speak, to learn how we talk, and things that are important to us, how the nuances of our jokes versus our sarcasm and our deliberate requests. These are all things that is pulled from the public internet. So what's on the public internet? gender bias, historical bias, representation bias. So no, we don't, these MLMs are not built to be neutral. They're not neutral. As I said, they're scraped from human data. Humans have innate biases within us. What we put on the internet is biases as well. So unfortunately, these LLMs can actually exacerbate some of and reinforce some of those negative gender biases specifically. So there was an unfortunate study that was from University of Tel Aviv that in last fall, a report that showed it was using ChatGPT o3, and it was when all else was equal, there was a request of what our salary request should be. It was a salary negotiation, the same medical director, same location, Colorado, same Denver, Colorado, same years in the business, same everything, same schooling, only changing one word in the prompt. Man, woman. Man was recommended that he ask for $487,000 as the starting salary. The woman, $285,000 starting salary. It was so dramatic a difference. It had to be written up in a academic peer-reviewed journal. Now, that's just one crazy example, but it's a good lesson to us. And what I encourage women is just awareness that these tools are not neutral, and be aware of it. If you just know that you're going to get biased answers, then automatically you have a tool in your toolbox. You can counteract that. You can say, hey, would you give that exact same advice if I was a man? How can I change this email to sound more like a man, but still keeping my warmth? Like, I'm not saying we need to go and say we need to be men to succeed in business. But what I'm saying is that the way that we prompt, the way that we ask these questions, just flip it on its head. Just challenge it, push back, see what prompts and answers you can get by just asking it to really think critically about, why is it that you gave me that request? Or why is it that you gave me that answer? If I'm asking for financial advice, or I put this, I put a medical question into you. Are you taking into account that I'm a woman? Are you taking into account that I am pregnant? Like, these are all the things. I'm not pregnant. I'll tell my husband. What are all these things? Because that's not built in. And that has a lot to do with the biases that are just built into these systems from public internet. It just doesn't have as much resources, but opting out. And so some people will say, well, I'm just not going to use these tools if they're so biased, if they're so, prejudiced against my skin, against where I've grown up, my socioeconomic levels, my gender. Opting out actually does not help the systems improve. We as users are helping improve these systems by the way that we interact with them. So it is that three-part: the data that they've scraped, the people creating these system prompts from the large companies, and then us as the users. That is what is going to help make these LLMs, these generative AI tools like ChatGPT and Google Gemini, that's what's going to make them more inclusive.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And thank you for saying that, because that was going to be my next question, was why should we as women use them, or should we not tell the system that we're women based on what you said? But I think that's actually a really good point, that it's sort of our responsibility to train it for future variations. So this is actually a nice segue into where I wanted to head next, talking about how can we use these systems. They're, in my opinion and what I see every day, there are so many tools out there that it can be a little overwhelming. There are so many ways that you can use it. So with women in business who are already doing the most. How can AI realistically give us our time back without us having to learn or manage another thing?
Yeah, you're touching on a critical obstacle that women face. And with any adoption, with any new tool, if it feels like a third job, we have work, we have home, and now we have to learn something new, it can feel like a third job, right? So if we consider AI as just another tool, as another obstacle, another time suck, then we're already not thinking about this correctly. We're at the precipice of something revolutionary. We are living in the Industrial Revolution. A lot of people hearken this back to when the internet came, and there is some similarities. And there's certainly people who are like, I don't want that. Just go to the library if you want to do a research paper. But really, it's the Industrial Revolution. The way that we're working, the way that we're going to be living our lives is going to continue to evolve and change. And that's directly because of generative AI. And how women can use it specifically is using it as a thought leader, using it as a partner, as a collaborator. Anything that you're working on, even if it's to take you off of a ledge and with dealing with a workplace drama and someone sends you an email and you're like, I'm just going to respond exactly how I want to respond. And then you're like, oh, wait, that's probably not going to work. If it can even just help you reread that email, rewrite that email, maybe question it. Did this person really mean what they said? Help me as a neutral party, ChatGPT. Help me figure it out. How can I best save face? How can I best keep my positioning within my company and also respond to this email in a professional manner? And even little things like that, we can be considering this as a tool, as a collaborator, as a partner. It's not a magic box, obviously. Coming at it responsibly, doing the right things that you should and should not put in these tools is very important. As we spoke about, knowing your license level is very important. So if general rule of thumb when it comes to what you should and should not put in these tools, if you're not comfortable putting it on your company Slack channel or putting it in on your LinkedIn, don't put it in ChatGPT, especially not in the free version. But follow your company's guidelines, but really start seeing it as that thought leader and collaborator. And you, the human, have the judgment and the clarity to question. If we hear a lot of people saying, okay, well, now we're just going to be over reliant on these tools. It's too good at everything. I'm just going to say, I can do my job better. I'm just going to push them away. And because I don't want to be over dependent, I don't want my brain to turn to mush. I've heard all of it, right?
I've heard that too.
Yeah. If the biggest way that your brain is going to turn to mush is if you take your brain out of the equation. Your human brain is still so much smarter, and your human experiences and your emotions and your full context that you're bringing to these tools and you're bringing to these responses, that cannot be removed. Every prompt needs to still have that human critical eye over top of it, especially before putting it out there in public or sending it to a client or a customer or something with weight, for sure.
Totally agree with you there. I've gotten the emails where you can see that they forgot to take the prompt out of the email when they copied and pasted it in. I mean, it does not bother me. It's only happened once or twice, and it's never been anything major. It's always been kind of funny, but I'm like, hey, you should be a little careful there.
That's a first for me. That's funny.
I think it happens when people are moving too quickly.
And that's exactly when it happens. So when you're moving too quickly, you're trying to get too much stuff done, and you start to get over reliant and you start to trust these tools so much to the fact that it's just done. Anytime you take human eye and you slow down and you remove that critical eye, things get sloppy, things get missed. And that's with any tool, right? Not just AI.
Yeah, I have a general rule of thumb that if I'm using AI specifically for client work, I have a lot of the custom GPTs that I've built. I've gotten really good at finagling them how I want them to be. But my general rule of thumb is if it spits something out at me, I'm going to sit with it for a second before I consider putting it out into any of the marketing materials or anything like that, because it always sounds really good. But if you go back 24 hours later and you read it and you're like, okay, well, does this actually sound like my client or does this just sound smart? I think there's the differentiator there. So that is the rule of thumb that I personally follow as like a content creator and marketer. Just my personal value in trying to keep my expertise in the work that I'm doing and not just rely on AI. And I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, when questions are raised, that's one of them, is the authenticity of the work that people are producing because of AI.
Yes, you brought up my favorite word, authenticity. I feel like especially with brands and marketing, it's that word is a buzzword, but no matter what profession you're in, bringing your authentic self to every email, every post, every client interaction, that was true well before we started having generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
People believed in, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And we as humans have an amazing ability, an uncanny ability, something that AI cannot do is really read people, physically read people, pick up on nuances, pick up on tone of voice changes, pick up on different mannerisms that can either build trust or erode trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your business, Growth Up Partners, I know you created your own framework for AI called the AI for ROI framework. Can you walk us through the specifics of that and how you use it to help businesses?
Yes. So the AI for ROI framework really came about from working with lots of clients that really had outdated ideas of digital transformation, right? We have these large consulting firms, McKinsey, Gartner, BDO, and they have amazing frameworks that have worked for a long time, maybe 50 years, but they were using timelines that were 12 to 18 months out. And that is not working with how quickly generative AI especially is moving things, right? So I took the best of their frameworks and then I layered in international safety and governance standards layered over top and risk assessments. And then I layered in true change management. So what it really takes on from a human level and a leadership level, how humans actually work with and integrate new tools within a business. And then of course, from my own experiences. So it's a 3-phase framework and it's super easy. It's align, integrate, scale. And within those 3 phases are little 3 steps within it. And it's meant to be a cycle. So within that align phase, just as the name implies, the first step is not getting distracted with all the shiny tools and all the options out there. It's really thinking about what you do manually on a day-to-day basis and seeing if it's something that you can offload to AI. Okay, so if you're looking at your manual work and you're seeing, I repeat this task over and over again, this does not require human judgment, doesn't require that much taste. It's few finagling. This could actually be done by generative AI. So then we're going to want to test that.
What are some examples of that?
Of course, of course. So I work with a lot of sales and marketing people. So, because my background is revenue operations. So simple things. Salespeople hate admin work, right?
Yep.
They hate summarizing calls. They hate the follow-ups. They hate looking for the right marketing product page to send their client. So those could be the easy manual options that you want to test and see if an AI can do for you.
Got it.
I mean, you've probably already used AI to generative AI to like help you with your content planning for a full calendar, right? If you're doing social media, maybe, you have a few days in the week that you're like, I don't really know what to put here. That could be a way that you could offload some of that thinking. Higher level thinking stays with you. Lower level thinking can stay with the AI. So then you're going to layer in, you're going to think critically about, is this aligning with my safety and governance, right? So I want to know what licenses we're putting in, what licenses we're using. Do we have an AI safety and governance policy? Even a small business needs one. Anybody who has customer data and using the internet needs to have an AI safety and governance policy. It literally takes, I walk people through it. I have a template. It's 2 pages. It's just some guidelines. It's not meant to be, especially for my creative types. They're like, I don't want anybody telling me what I can and cannot do. But it's actually keeps your brand authentic. It keeps it in line. It keeps those, brand bleed, if you will, of like, does this sound like AI or does this sound like me? Just keeping in those human in the loop checkpoints and making sure that even your interns, your additional consultants, people in other departments, they know what is expected when using these new tools. And then we're going to test that. Okay. So now we have a use case. So now we say, okay, every time that I have a client call, I am going to have it auto summarize and it's going to immediately create an auto email for me. It's not going to send the email, but it's going to do that manual copy and paste, me thinking about it. But I'm still going to be that human in the loop where I'm actually making sure, does this sound like me before I press send? Okay. And we're going to try that. We're within that phase 1 align. We're going to say, okay, this takes me on my own pre-AI, pre-automations, pre-anything. This takes me 4 hours a week, let's say. I have my baseline. Then I'm going to test that. So phase 2 is integration. Now we know what our tools are that we have. We're going to be using, let's say we have Microsoft Copilot that we have within our company. We're going to use Microsoft Copilot. We're going to use Teams. It's going to auto generate. And then I'm going to set up a automate workflow. I'm using some of these jargon that are Microsoft Copilot, but if it's through ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever that looks like for you and your business, we're not adding new tools. Pilot 1 is not about adding new tools. It is about using the tools that you have and figuring out the ways that we can either leverage the AI features that are built into them, or we are thinking about ways that we can use generative AI on just the regular platforms, a ChatGPT or a Gemini. And so our integration phase, we're going to have that workflow. We're going to know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to write it down. We have our SMART goal that we made in phase 1 that we're trying to save ourselves. We're trying to cut down some of that 4 hours, and we're going to want to cut that down using this new workflow. We're going to try this for 2 weeks, 14 days. That's it. And we're not going to change. We're not going to change our process. We're not going to change the way that we do it mid-pilot. We're thinking like scientists. We're thinking like true startup, iterative, agile methodology. And then at that 14 days, we're going to look and see exactly how much time we were able to save. Okay. And then where we were able to reinvest that. And that's what's key. And that scale phase 3 is really looking at the metrics, looking at our baseline, figuring out how we were able to save ourselves money, save ourselves time, where we were able to maybe spend 1 extra hour reinvesting and spending that having more face-to-face conversations. Now, within a business, if you are trying to sell AI internally, let's say you're just trying to say, okay, I want that Copilot enterprise license. I want to be able to I want them to pay for my pro ChatGPT license pro. If you're trying to leverage this and sell it to your management internally, you're going to need to have these metrics because leaders respond to numbers. They don't respond to well, I just feel better using it, or I think I think I did a better creative, or I think that blog was better. No, like we need, okay, because I use generative AI, because I use this tool, I was able to increase X metric. That is what is going to get you more resources. That's what's going to get you leadership buy-in. That is what is going to make you an AI champion within your organization. And then you can start sharing those results with other teammates. You create a psychologically safe environment for experimentation, for learning, for failing quickly, for trying new things. And once you start stacking all of those metrics on top of each other, then you're really making that compounding effort and seeing those compounding results come through. So in that phase 3, that scale process is reviewing your results, sharing those results internally, writing those SOPs, documenting what worked, right? This is what we tried. This is what we didn't try. Let's not spin our wheels and do that same thing again. And then we taught other people. That is going to be this cycle, this align, integrate, scale process, because we're constantly going to need new use cases. We're going to need to review our safety and our tools and our guidelines. And we're going to constantly need to be creating metrics and teaching each other. And that is compounding ROI. And I say that it's AI for ROI almost as a Trojan horse, because a lot of businesses and a lot of people think ROI, return on investment, is really just dollar for dollar. We can go higher than that. We can go more than that. Return on intelligence, return on inclusivity, involving more people within the organization, return on information, just finding out what works and what doesn't, and what feels right to you guys. So I encourage your listeners to start small. No one is an expert here. You were so kind to call me an expert, but trying to learn everything you can about AI is like trying to hold water. It is incredibly difficult. The people making these tools and building these, working at OpenAI, Grok and Google Gemini and Anthropic, they don't even understand sometimes how these systems work. They put these models out there. They do something they're not expecting them to do, and they have to pull them back. So I really just want to encourage your listeners, especially women listening, to start small, building your confidence, practicing on your own time, trying to find those use cases that give you time back in your life. Maybe you're meal planning for your kids. That's an easy one. That can give you some mental load off your plate. Trying to come up with ideas for, if you're tasked with the sales kickoff meeting and you're trying to think of like icebreakers, whatever it is, just put a prompt, ask a question in as a natural language question to these tools, and just get comfortable, more and more comfortable using them.
I think that's really encouraging, and that takes away a little bit of the intimidation factor, because it's like, you can't mess it up. And if it does mess up the response it gives you, we as humans can kind of be the liaison between what we're getting back and what we're sharing. And as you were talking about how women can use it in the workforce, I just had the idea in my mind of a woman who's maybe like not entry level, but trying to climb in leadership or something like that. This seems to be the prime opportunity for people to differentiate themselves in a way that, we always talk about in corporate, going above and beyond, or being a thought leader, things that aren't necessarily in your job description. And I can just foresee having this knowledge being a game changer for so many women in the future. So I want to add to what you said, and encouraging the women listening to this to not only learn the tool, but take your framework and apply it, because I think 10 years from now, we're going to see a massive shift in the women, or people in general, who were willing to do that versus those who weren't.
And I want to share just one story to make it really hit home, because I also hear that I'm too late to learn. This isn't something that I'm in mid-career. Why would I try to learn these tools later? But as leaders, as 40, 50, 60 plus, you're the prime, you are the perfect candidate to learning these tools and being an advocate for everyone else in your organization, because you bring so much more expertise and human experience, whereas entry level people that are coming straight out of college and just using these tools, they don't have as much critical thinking and eye going into them to question them. They don't have enough real business experience to know whether they should question that prompt or not. So you specifically, I'll just call her Courtney. Courtney is 65, works in a big company, went pharmaceutical manufacturing company, and I started working together. We went through this framework. She's a salesperson, no idea how to use these tools, how to create a workflow, how to give back her time, how to just spend more time with her customers that she wanted. And not only within working with her for 3 months, working on this framework, we went through the pilot multiple times. Not only was she able to show her results, she got asked to present to the CFO and the CTO within a $500 million company. She was labeled as an AI champion, and she was asked to be a part of their then building an AI internal council. And she was going to be on that council, asked to be a part of it, to be able to share more tools and to create that environment. So not only did she get time back in her schedule and she was able to achieve her goals, but then she set herself up as an integral part of the organization. And even in her late 60s, she's seen as a candidate for change and positive change and a part of this AI movement, which I'm really excited to keep working with her and seeing where that goes.
Hell yeah, Courtney. We love that for her. So if there are women listening to this who want to learn more and want to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would love to. So if you go to growthuppartners.com, that's growth up partners with an s.com. I'm sure you can put it in the show notes. Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn, Abigail Merrill. I'm the only one. Please reach out. If you're listening to this podcast, then I can even create a special guide. I can send you over a guide that might be helpful for you to get started. Yeah, me personally, and I know you wanted to ask me about my journey as a mom. Mm-hmm. This as someone who has created many businesses, worked for many other businesses, I see generative AI as the biggest tool for us as women and us as moms, parents, because we have so much mental load. We are trying to always do so much that being able to just have a go-to resource, a reliable resource to help us with our home life decisions, our work life decisions, and kind of level the playing field. And it's not a secret. It's not a tool. It's not something that you have to be ashamed of using. It's not a cheat. You're not cheating by using these tools. It's literally making you a better human.
What's a way that you've personally used it in that situation with home or motherhood?
Well, I mean, talking you off a ledge, right? I mean, and so I got to work with a client that was pre-ChatGPT. I immediately fell in love with it. All I wanted to do was just switch my business right then and there at the end of 2022 to be fully focused on teaching others how to do generative AI. And I was hooked at that moment. Then I got pregnant and I had to put all of that on hold, right? And when home life and you feel like you're already behind, you sacrifice so much for your kids and you sacrifice time and opportunity costs, and the value of giving back to them is huge. But I'm able to do so much more with having this tool in my pocket. Instead of hiring like a bunch of extra strategists and a bunch of extra people, I can have a more insular team of people and that help me just be more efficient with my time. So I literally only work from 8:30 to 5 o'clock. And that has really changed. Generative AI before that, I could not do that. I could not set those boundaries. I was working lots of nights and weekends, and that was a challenge. And it was a real blocker. And so now I can, and I just didn't want to be the mom. I didn't want to be the parent. I didn't want to be the solopreneur that was just working nonstop, and especially while your kids are young. So yeah, I'm genuinely like, I love it, but I also know that we have to be realistic. So I teeter the line between realistic, responsible use, and this is amazing and it's life changing. And if you incorporate it strategically and responsibly and you start making that a habit, you are far and above not only personal life, but professionally, you are far beyond a lot of your peers around you.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more. And before we wrap up, I just want to quickly share one tool, one way that I accidentally found using AI really helps me as a mother. Have you heard of Dr. Becky from Good Inside? She's Instagram famous, let's call her. She is I actually don't know her technical background. I believe she's a family therapist, but she teaches a lot about parenting, and she has an app, and within the app there is an AI tool where if I run into an instance, for example, where like my 3-year-old, my 3-year-old, he's a wild one. My 3-year-old just slapped me in the face. He won't go to sleep. I'm losing my cool. What do? I can literally type it in there and it will give me scripts because it knows my kids. It has my kids' information. It'll give me scripts to settle myself and how to approach my child. And just that alone, just the AI tool within that app alone has really helped me become more centered as a mother and taught me some things that I wouldn't necessarily have known unless I spent hours upon hours researching things like this.
Yes. And we just don't have time for that.
Yeah.
One thing, one tip I just wanted to leave with, one tip.
Perfect.
Is, and you made me think of it, I meant to say it earlier, is using this as a role play. Okay. So if you have a powerful role model in your life, let's say it's someone public, an author, Mel Robbins, Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters, whoever has the voice that you want to be. Maybe you're trying to lead in that way, either in your personal life or your home life. Go ahead and tell it, I want you to quiz me, ChatGPT. I want you to ask me questions in the tone of voice of Michelle Obama, because she's not apologetic. She doesn't use the word just in her emails, let's say. She's asking the tough questions. Barbara Walters is asking the tough questions. And I want you to interview me back and forth. And there's voice mode you can use. It's gotten so much better. Keep trying these tools. If you feel like, oh, I tried that and I didn't like it, go back to it. Every 3 to 6 months, these tools are taking leaps and bounds. But that's a great way that you will get unique perspectives, but also in the tone of voice that you really like, that mirrors your tone. Maybe if you don't have that tone yet, or maybe you're not sure what questions to ask. Perfect prompting is out. That was so 2025, right? We are in the natural language. Just ask the questions, as you said, Alyssa, like, I don't know what to do. That's a perfect prompt. Like, that is how you approach this now.
Yeah. I love that so much. I've loved our conversation. Thank you for taking the time to share. I can already think of like countless people who I am going to send this to. Like, you need to listen to this, because we spend so much time focusing on the purpose or the perfect prompt when I don't even think that's the conversation that we need to be having.
No,
so
it's not.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Very much appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the Fearless and Unfiltered podcast. I'm Alyssa Olerud. We will see you next time.